Hey everyone, sorry for the not so good video and audio, but I'm currently moving. Um, we hit 1 million views just now. I just refreshed it. 1,201 views. I was trying to catch the moment where it went right over into 1 million, but that's as best as I can do. 1,201, incredible. So we also have views, on our website. There's about 10,000 just straight through our website. So we hit 1 million a while ago. And also people I know, especially at the beginning, have been watching this in groups, at least groups of 2 or more. There was showings at several parishes I heard about where they would, pack their house with people and watch Mass of the Ages. So we've certainly already reached well over 1 million. I wonder how many people we've actually reached, and some stats here. So YouTube counts a view after 30 seconds of watching a film, which that's longer than Facebook. Facebook is like you watch it for 5 seconds, it counts as a view. But I looked at remember we did that pay it forward thing at the beginning of Mass of the Ages where it says you give $1, we're going to reach, you give $10, we're going to reach 10 more Catholics with Mass of the Ages. Well, every dollar that was given actually helped us reach 20 people. So every dollar turned into 20 views. And that's people who watch 30 seconds, but I care more about people who really latch onto the film. So I looked at how many people watched at least 25% of the film. So of the 45-minute film, how many people watched 12 minutes or more? And it actually turned out to be that every dollar that was given reached 5 views if you take that approach. So someone who really stuck around and really got a lot out of the film. It's funny because we were running this film as an ad. And so, before you watch a YouTube video, our entire film plays. And it doesn't count as a view unless you watch at least 30 seconds of it. And, you can skip it after 5 seconds. So you can imagine someone just in the bathroom, trying to kill some time. And then Mass of the Ages comes up as an ad. And then a lot of people actually stuck around to watch, at least 25% of the entire film. So incredible. 1 million people reached, many more than 1 million at this point. And I'm just grateful. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for your support. The goal was to share this film with millions of Catholics so that millions of Catholics can discover Mass of the Ages for the first time, the Latin Mass, and that thousands of priests can start celebrating the Latin Mass. So this is only the beginning, and your support is helping us reach more and more Catholics, and it's incredible. I was thinking back to why I wanted to make this film in the first place. So, 2.5 years ago, I just wanted to make Mass of the Ages because I loved the Latin Mass and I wanted a proper film about it. Not just a YouTube video that, you can make in your basement, but an actual film with characters and locations and a big budget behind it. But then the Pew study came out that revealed that only 70% of Catholics don't believe in the real presence. And 40% of Catholics who attend Mass every Sunday don't believe in the real presence. And so then Mass of the Ages became this much more meaningful film where I wanted to show the connection between the way we worship and what we believe, because I saw Sunday Mass as the foundation to what we're actually believing as Catholics. That's just Catholic teaching. It is the source and summit of our faith. Lex orandi, lex credendi. The law of prayer is the law of belief. But then the film became an even bigger deal because, as you know, on August, when was that? July 15th, Pope Francis released his motu proprio restricting the Latin Mass. So now the film is not just an argument or a case to be made for what caused the crisis of faith. But now the trilogy is the response that the traditional Catholic Church, that the Catholic Church has to the motu proprio, to show that the Latin Mass is not divisive, that it's actually a unifying force, and that we need the Latin Mass. And people who go to Latin Mass are not, for a large part, most of them are not angry and bitter and talking about Vatican II. They don't. That's not what they talk about. They just love the Latin Mass because of how it shows our faith, our Catholic faith, and it treats the Eucharist with proper respect. So, yeah, the trilogy. I mean, I was just gonna make a documentary about the Latin Mass, and then it's like, wow, we gotta turn the tide and show, you know, the church why people don't believe in the real presence. And now, after the motu proprio came out, it is the Catholic response, I think, to the motu proprio to show that. I mean, I think we're making something that is at the like turning point in history, where yes, you have theologians and authors and good bishops and people really doing good work, kind of in the intellectual, ecclesial space. But in terms of the arts, I think we're really at the turning point. And people will look back on Mass of the Ages as a great catalyst for changing the conversation, and reigniting kind of the passion for the traditional Latin Mass. That's not because I'm making a great film in my basement by myself. It's because so many people are working on this film, have rallied behind it. A lot of talented people are working behind the scenes. And a film is nothing if it doesn't get in front of a lot of people. So I have you guys to thank for that you've supported this project. We're able to put in an aggressive marketing budget behind it. And now we reached 1 million views. So I want to answer some of your questions. Margot Catholic is officially, I think, our biggest fan. So whatever that means, you get the prize. So far, we'll see if anyone can top you, but you're our biggest fan right now. Let me know if you guys have any questions. I'll be happy to answer them. Is it going to be on DVD? So yes, Scripture says, don't say tomorrow I'll do such and such a thing. Say if the Lord wills it. So as of now, we do plan to release the trilogy on a DVD because a lot of people have been asking about it. And we don't want to just release them one at a time. They're 40-minute films. If you buy it, we want it to be a substantial thing that you're going to love to have. It's going to contain all 3 films, hopefully some behind-the-scenes stuff. It's going to be beautiful. You know, we're not going to do anything half-hearted. So yes, eventually it'll be on DVD. That'll be after all 3 films of the trilogy have come out. Do more videos with Jake. So that, yeah, Jake, I want to do that. So if you guys liked the video I did with Jake, sound off in the comments, and we'll definitely do some more of that. More videos, please. So Julius, I'd love to hear what kind of videos you like from the channel. Obviously, the films are kind of our flagship thing we're doing, but do you have any kinds of videos that you particularly like? Okay, so this is a question. That's a good question. I have a crew that's in Europe right now. They are finishing up in Italy and then going to France tomorrow. And I decided not to go, firstly, because I couldn't go to France, or it might have been turned down at customs because I haven't been vaxxed. I could have gone to Italy, but we were only spending 2.5 days in Italy. And that's, you know, a lot of travel for just 2.5 days. And I realized I have a team that I really trust. So my cinematographer's out there. We hired a local field producer to handle the logistics who speaks French and Italian. We also flew out another cameraman who's basically a cinematographer, just like Tom, who's really talented. So I have a team out there in Europe right now filming. They're doing interviews. Right now they're at the Institute Seminary in Italy, and then they'll travel to film with Dalmaco and Reed at the monastery, Saint Benoit. And it's going to be beautiful because you can picture, the Feast of All Saints and All Souls Day celebrated in a monastery. It's we're getting a lot of footage for episode 3, but we're also using our time there to get interviews for episode 2 as well. For example, before we flew out to Europe last week, we went to DC and filmed with Archbishop Athanasius Schneider, who, you've heard lex orandi, lex credendi so many times. You've heard that if you change the liturgy, it's going to change the faith. But he articulated it in such an excellent way. I couldn't even sum it up because I'd ruin it. But I'm so excited to put his interview in episodes 2 and 3. We also interviewed Diane Montagna, who, as some of you know, has been investigating the everything surrounding Traditionis Custodes, the bishop's responses. Was it largely negative? Was it necessary for the Pope? In his words, he felt obliged to intervene. We're going to investigate that, and that's where episode 3 kind of gets off. We've also set up an interview with Martin Mosebach, who is a German author who wrote Heresy of Formlessness, incredible book about the liturgy. And we were at the Summorum Pontificum pilgrimage, filming that, getting some interviews. So we're getting a ton of stuff in Europe right now. Even though I'm not there, our schedule was really detailed and tight, and the team I sent there is really competent. So they have all the interview questions that I would have asked anyways. And I would have loved to go, and I think it is important for the director to go when he can. But because it was such a short turnaround in Italy, and I couldn't go to France, it just made sense for me to come stay home to help my wife move, because we just moved into a new house. That's why I'm outside. That's why my office looks like this, kind of. Does part 2 mention the SSPX? So we'll certainly mention them in passing. I think if you want to do the SSPX service, I think they need their own film to really get into it, because yes, they are critical, but it doesn't mean we need to spend 15 minutes or 30 minutes unpacking the SSPX. Because what would happen is, we're trying to make a 40-minute film. You get into the SSPX, and inevitably you're going to not say enough. And if you try to do it justice in 30 minutes, 15 minutes, you won't be able to do that. So they are certainly critical to the story, but we think they need their own documentary to really do them justice, which would be a great, thing after the Mass of the Ages to pursue. Sarah, thanks for the question. So episode 2 will be about what happened to the Mass after Vatican II, about this concilium, which is a committee that was put together by Paul VI that assembled the new Mass. It's a story of a lot of twists and turns, exciting revelations, but also the heart of episode 2 is about the old guard in the church that, setting up their masses in holiday inns across the world and doing masses underground, keeping the traditional Latin Mass alive, which ultimately culminates. This is what the entire trilogy is about. In First Communion, Corpus Christi procession, beautiful adoration of the Blessed Sacrament. That's really the heart of episode 2. Is we think that the Latin Mass is the best setting for the mystery taking place. Like Dr. Marshall's quote in episode 1, we think that the Latin Mass is a better setting for Eucharistic piety. And what I'm most excited about with episode 2, besides the heart behind it, the stories behind it, is the actual comparison. Now, we're not comparing clown masses with the absolute best Latin mass you can find. We're comparing typical and typical. And we're doing it in a very objective way because I think it's really helpful for people to not just attend the mass they attend and not like look across the fence. For a lot of Catholics who attend the Novus Ordo, they just don't, by no fault of their own, they just don't quite get it why people attend the Latin Mass. They think it's just because you like Latin or something. We got into that a little bit with episode 1, but really to show them side by side is really powerful. And it's a lot more effective than just telling the audience a lot of different facts. So I'm really excited about this kind of side by side comparison. We also have just some stunning animation lined up. Just some beautiful animation design to kind of make these complicated subjects very simple. So yeah, that's what episode 2 is about. Let me know if I answer your question or not. Michael, tada. I'm guessing your last name is Tada. So sorry if I messed that up. Is the St. Andrew's Daily Missal the most complete? How can I get the full traditional divine office? By divine office, do you mean the kind of like the trad liturgy of the hours, or do you mean the missal for the mass? So I don't have a lot of opinions because I don't know ultimately the best way to go about that. I know Dr. Taylor Marshall did a video on different hand missals for the mass. I don't know if you're talking about a full traditional divine office. I'm not sure. I was actually looking for one online, but I can only find ones that are, you log on in the day and you can see that day. So if anyone in the comments knows the best full traditional divine office, you can sound off in the comments. Thanks for these comments, guys. This is great. Thank you, Gustavo. Regards from Brazil. Castro Meyer, pray for us. Can you do films about Eucharistic miracles or appearances of our Blessed Mother? Well, I could. I can tell you about a project we're doing that is near and dear to my heart because it's Eucharistic. So we're doing a series of short films on Eucharistic saints. For example, the Chinese martyr who snuck into a communist-controlled Catholic church because there was scattered across the aisle like 30 dozens of hosts, consecrated hosts. The church was ransacked, abandoned, controlled by communists. She snuck in each day to first kneel down, adore the Eucharist, do her holy hour, and then bow her head to the ground and receive communion. Just a testament of brave piety. And eventually, upon receiving the last host, so she would go day in and day out. The bravery it took to step inside this church, knowing she could get killed, and she went every day. And then after she received the last communion there, she was martyred, but she was found out by a guard. So that's just one film of 10 we're going to do. Short films, powerful 5 to 10 minute films. And if you go to horselordfilms.com, you can get more information about Godbread. That is a series of Eucharistic films. So I would love to do films about the Eucharist. I mean, that's what Mass of the Ages is ultimately about. So yeah, good question. Oh, here's a question. Keith, do you have any older brothers that help develop and inspire you? Yes, I have 2 older brothers. Have you heard about anyone in the hierarchy, particularly in the Vatican, viewing this? And if so, what were their thoughts, particularly after Traditionis Custodes? I have not heard through the grapevine if who's watched this and how high up they go. So can't answer that. I think here's what I think is going to happen. Once episode 2 comes out, it's going to be so loudly in contest with the normal narrative out there that's, oh yeah, teach their own, you have this mass, we have this mass, let's kind of like live and let live. To some aspects that's true. I think once episode 2 comes out, it's just going to change the conversation. It's going to be a big catalyst, and I don't think it can be overlooked or avoided. I think it's going to be the movement's going to be too strong. Clinton, regarding episode 2, you'll be covering things as Jungmann and the 1955 Holy Week reform, or is it out of scope? For me, the 30s to 50s are vital to understanding the 69 Missal. So your intuition is right that it's a bit out of scope. For those of you who watched episode 1, how much information would you say was in episode 1? I would say it was like 90% testimonial, inspiring events, and 10% information. And I think that's a good ratio. I think episode 2 will be more like 25-75. 25% information, 75% inspiration. But it's difficult because when you're making a film, I think too much information gets people to kind of shut their brains off. It's too much to take in all at once. I mean, if we did like a series on the liturgical movement and the liturgical reform and, went back that far, then we would be able to get into that stuff and do them justice, but they're really outside of the scope. Now, we're interviewing Dalma Aquin Reed, who is an incredible author who wrote Organic Development of the Liturgy. I think that's the name of the book. And I'm sure he's going to bring up some of this stuff. So we might mention some of these details kind of in passing, but we can't do them justice because of our focus. Really, we want to kind of be the introduction to this topic for a lot of people. So for a lot of people, that important introduction is going to be those 5 years after Vatican II, where the new Mass was assembled. I mean, once that's open, once the doors for that are open, then they can enter this library of content. And, we'll have all our interviews available eventually for people to view. And then there's books and resources that people can follow up with. We think we're kind of the initial catalyst, the introduction. We are making a case, but our case can't, begin in the 30s and end in the 2020s. We got to pick a strong focus, which I think good documentaries do. I think the boring documentaries are the ones that kind of try to take on way too much, and it just becomes, fact delivery. Like they're just giving you a bunch of facts. Alejandra, will you talk about the state of the TLM in each continent? We'll get into that briefly. I believe that episode 3 will get into that insofar as what has the bishop's responses been to Traditionis Custodes, and we want to see kind of a global picture of that. So in each continent, yeah, probably. To be honest, my head's really deep in episode 2, and so to think about episode 3 is a little too much outside of my brain power right now. So Grant, yeah, is episode 3 going to focus on the legacy and impact of the TLM? Yes. So episode 1 is here's the Latin Mass, here's why it's important. Episode 2 is let's compare the Latin Mass and the new Mass. And episode 3 is what is the future of the Latin Mass and the future of the Church. So certainly that's going to be a big focus in episode 3. It's getting dark. I'm getting bluer and bluer the later we go. So I'm going to wrap up here soon. Could you in the future do something about how to talk to Novus Ordo people about the value of TLM? How to talk about the value. So like here's how to approach people in your friends or family groups who attend the Novus Ordo and you love the TLM. Yeah, that could be beneficial. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think the tactic is you just invite them to the Latin Mass and tell them to just soak it in. But that could be an interesting topic. I always love hearing topic ideas. Yeah, short films. So one idea after the trilogy is we have our 3 flagship films. We have a bunch of interviews, resources on the website. And then it could be interesting that like brought to you by Mass of the Ages. We do a short film that's really zooming in on something. So let's say it is SSPX. I said earlier you couldn't do it justice in 30 minutes. So maybe SSPX isn't a good example, but the Requiem Mass or Gregorian chant, and you kind of have a short film that's surprising and kind of approaches it from a different perspective. That could be a good thing to do after Mass of the Ages, as I'm sure there will still be hunger for more content like this. Maria, do you have any concerns that the new film will cause further suppression of the Latin Mass? No, I don't fear that at all. What I am afraid of, and this has already happened, is after the motu proprio, bishops and parishes get scared to be featured in the film. We've been turned down several times because of the motu proprio. I don't blame those individuals. I mean, I don't know what I would do. Let's say I'm a pastor of a parish and I know I'm walking on thin ice with the bishop. I know the bishop is antithetical to the Latin Mass. And then if I were to appear on this documentary that's, in some ways critical of the new Mass, I'm putting my parishioners kind of at risk that maybe we're shut down and maybe the Latin Mass is going to be completely restricted in this parish. So I totally get where some of these priests are coming from. So I'm not concerned that the film's going to cause a suppression of the Latin Mass. I actually think the opposite's going to happen. I think bishops are waiting for. I think. How do I say this? A lot of bishops are kind of like politicians, where they'll do something because they know that the faithful in their diocese like it. I think if a film like this, Mass of the Ages Episode 1 reaches 1 million Catholics, Episode 2 I think is going to have an even bigger splash, and so on. Bishops are going to see that and not want to get involved, not want to restrict it anymore, not want to make the faithful angry, in their dioceses. So, yeah, I'm not afraid of that. But please, everyone watching this, pray for courage for priests and bishops. The locations we still have to go. Just pray for courage that people don't. We need courage right now. We need bishops to say, actually, the Latin Mass is holding my diocese together, and I will not suppress it. I'll use everything in my power to stand up for it. So pray for courage that those featured in this trilogy and those we approach in the future can publicly say how much they love the Latin Mass. Well, spoiler, is it the second one Father Murr will be in? Yes. Okay. Well, that is it. I think I went over everything. I think I answered every question. Thank you all so much. Really appreciate it. Let me refresh it one more time. What are we at? I'm going to get an ad for graph algorithms. What does that mean? Okay, 1,422 views. Okay, I got to cut it there. I'm going to go pray a rosary with my family, and I'll pray for all of you. I'll pray for the film. And again, thank you. I'm so grateful to be doing this work. Yeah, please pray for courage for myself, and that we can just listen to what the Lord wants to do with 2 and 3. That's what it's been all about this entire time is what does the Lord want to do? What does he want to say to the church? And episode 1 was very different before the Lord stepped in and made some, tough changes to it, but it came out exactly as it was supposed to. So please pray that I can be submissive to the Holy Spirit, and that we can all have courage and charity. I mean, we need both of those things in force. All right, thank you all. God bless you. Stay in touch.